Welcome to Mystara, and get your cassocks ready, for today is a deep dive into the religions of Karameikos, one of the most detailed groups of religion in the known world. Everybody else has a few mention of their beliefs, maybe some paragraphs or details. Not Karameikos. It sports 3 different churches, a module devoted to their internal conflict, and then doubles down across several of the second edition books. It's a 3-way orthodox standoff between the old religion, the imported religion, and the brand new cult. It's also a division that could shake the nation to its very core. I'm Mr. Welch, and I think I con. The 3 primary churches in Karameikos are the Church of Karameikos, appropriately enough, the Church of Traladara, and the Cult of Halav. Obviously, they aren't all the religions. The Cult of Karameikos has a surprisingly large number of followers because of the dwarves found there, with Karl, Glitterlode, and Brunderhorn worshipped by the gnomes and hen respectively. The Viale elves worship Ordana in her guise as Thindara, while the Kalari elves follow Isindal. Other immortals with significant followers include Nyx, Orcus, and Hersimus, aka Leptar. Druids follow a pantheon led by Zerchiv and Thindara. There's also several temples to the Church of Darakan, but that's used mainly by merchants from that nation. The individual immortals are worshipped far less than the pantheons I first mentioned. The Church of Traladara is the oldest organized religion in what is now Karameikos, and it's the largest religion by far. It is centered around worshipping the 3 patron immortals of the Traladar people, Halav, Petra, and Zerchiv. These were the same heroes recorded in the Song of Halav, representing the victory of the Traladaran people over the Beastmen. The church believes that by worshipping the 3 heroes, that Traladara will be restored to its golden years under the benevolent rule of King Halav and Queen Petra. It also teaches its followers to watch out for the enemies of the Traladarans, mostly the humanoids that have plagued the land for so long. But they reserve a special kind of hate for gnolls. The church also warns against the undead, but a few sentient undead get a pass as long as they're not evil. That's on a case-by-case basis. The tenets of the Church of Traladara can be summed up thus. The Song of Halav is a true story. Cruelty, murder, and lying are sins that require physical and spiritual penance. The most serious sins, like murder and demon worship, can only be redeemed in death. Those that oppose the patron immortals of Traladara must be destroyed. Suffer not the humanoid to live. Divination magic, especially in a ritualistic format, is perfectly acceptable when used with good intentions. The fate of a believer in the afterlife is determined by their wisdom, faith, and decency. The Golden Age will be restored when all followers genuinely believe their patrons will return. The church firmly believes that families that follow its teaching can settle their own disputes, so the clergy rarely get involved in family disputes. It will offer guidance if asked, but won't go knocking on doors to see if everything is okay. That's for neighbors and civil authorities to handle. The church teaches responsibility as a significant philosophy, so they are content to let people make their own decisions as long as it doesn't hurt others. They will counsel families if children are involved, as it sees children unready for the world, so they don't have the same burdens of responsibilities as adults. The church is easily the largest in the nation, with 70% of the population adhering to its faith. There are churches devoted to the entire pantheon, and temples teaching the wisdom of each of the 3 patrons individually. The followers are split almost evenly between worshipping everyone and focusing on just a single immortal. There's no stigma or conflict regarding the different beliefs. It's up to each person to decide what form of worship is best for them. Somebody can attend the group temple for years, then stop in a patron's church for a focus lesson any time, and nobody will think any different of them. The Church of Karameikos is an offshoot of the Church of Traladara, but it's trying to combine its teaching with that of the local Traladarans to bring them under its influence. Its pantheon has a host of immortals, including Terastia, Chardastes, Asterius, Vanya, Kagiar, Betera, and Ilsindal. The immortal Valerius is also attached to it, but why a chaotic immortal hangs out with a bunch of lawful types is a mystery. Most speculate that she admires their goals, just not their methods. She's always been an ally, just one that works outside the strict hierarchy. The religion does not follow all the tenets of the Church of Traladara, as that religion is not well regarded in Karameikos, what with the invasion and all. It has softened its original teachings to try to win over some of the native Traladarans. The core belief of the church is that of the pure soul. It holds that no matter the sin, there's always room for redemption. The church determines what is needed to be redeemed, which usually involves a ritual and possibly a quest if necessary. The beliefs of the religion are the biggest sins are violence, theft, lying, adultery, treason, and cohabitation with a member of the opposite sex that isn't family. Ritual magic, especially divination magic, corrupts the soul. The soul can be redeemed with a cleansing ritual that gets more complicated the more you sin. Unrepentant sinning gets you excommunicated, which damns your eternal soul. What happens to you in the afterlife is determined by how much your soul is weighed down by sin. The church's followers are required to proselytize to save as many souls as possible. The church has been accused of using its congregants' fear of being weighed down by sin to extort money out of them or to use the information given in confession as a form of blackmail. This isn't a baseless accusation, and despite the patriarch's efforts, it does happen regularly by less ethical priests. The penalty for such an act is excommunication, but in the smaller town, there's often only one cleric to attend to the parishioners, making reporting misdeeds difficult. The levels of graft, aren't common, but they happen often enough that it's held up as an example by the Church of Traladara as an example of Fiatis's corruption. The church is currently followed by a quarter of the population, with 90% of the faith following the spiritual teachings rather than a single immortal or even the entire pantheon. Immortals of the pantheon are held up as substitutes to the Traladaran patrons, with the addition of Ilsendil and Cagiar to attract demi-human followers. Patriarch Jowett is well aware of the mistrust the local population has towards his church and the reports of corruption among the clergy. He's trying to win over their minds with the similarities of the religions. Still, he's also fighting growing dissatisfaction with his own clergy regarding his hands-off approach to non-believers. He wants to bring them into the faith through diplomacy, while some of his subordinates believe it's time the Duke ban the Church of Traladara and force them to convert. Fortunately, the advocates for violent action have little power. For now. The one group that does the best to win over the people of Karameikos is the Order of the Griffin, the militant order of the church. This group of fighters serves to enforce the church's will on those who would harm the nation. While it has members other than paladins, it's best known for those members. It is open to any human or demi-human of either sex, but humanoids and intelligent monsters need not apply. It also turns away rogues and arcane spellcasters. The Order of the Griffin is a proactive group, hunting down bandits, humanoids, and other threats to the outlying villages of the nation. They have no official authority unless it's given to them by the Duke, but a few are official knights of the realm. They are considered above reproach compared to the clergy, and have even been called on to bring a crooked priest to justice. While they don't have a high standing compared to vested priests in the hierarchy of the religion, when a member of the order reports internal corruption, it's almost always investigated. Because if the church ignores it, a higher-ranking paladin will do the investigation regardless. The third largest church in Karameikos is the Cult of Halav, followed by only 1% of the population. This church is also one of the newest, created only 40 years ago with the arrival of Duke Stefan. Its core belief, actually its only belief, is that the Grand Duke is the physical reincarnation of Halav and he's come to restore Traladara to its golden age. The cult is primarily viewed as a joke by other religions, but its charismatic leader Sergeyev has convinced a decent number of his vision. They have no formal teachings, no official garments for the priests, and services are more random gatherings than planned events. They're considered odd but harmless by most of the population. The kicker is someone is granting them spells. They believe it's Halav, which would make sense. Nobody knows who the cult's actual patron is. It could be Halav, as impersonating another immortal is a massive violation among their kind, but he's not precisely raining his blessings on the cult, so that would make it a trickster immortal like Koratiko or Raven. It's probably not an entropic immortal, as their patron isn't malicious. They haven't been directed to act against the other churches or immortals just to spread the message about Halav's imminent return. It would help their cause greatly if they could convert Duke Stefan, but he only gives a slight chuckle when reminded of his inadvertent cult of personality. There is so much potential for adventure juggling these three against each other. The Church of Traladara thinks the Church of Karameikos is corrupt, and the Cult of Halav are morons. Karameikos sees Traladara as backwards and Halav as lunatics. Halav sees Traladara as uninformed and Karameikos as blind. Traladara has the most significant following. Karameikos has the ear of the Duke, and Halav is made up entirely of true believers. Violence between the sects is rare, but it's not unheard of. Halav has a few fanatical members, but it's mainly content with just giving speeches and talking to people one-on-one. Karameikos isn't happy with its status as distant second, but Patriarch Jowett will not abuse his position to change that. Certain members of his clergy might be on the take, but he's a decent man. Traladara believes in personal responsibility but preaches against violence, unless it's against humanoids. Then they are more than happy to hand out torches and pitchforks. But against rival clerics, they will simply chase them out of any settlement if they start trouble. The most significant difference between the religions compared to other settings is that all of them are lawful in nature, or at least good aligned. They mean well, even the Cult of Halav, except Karl. He's a bit of a dick. Neither Karameikos nor Traladara is evil. Even the corrupt priests in Karameikos are very much in the minority. Clerics sent on missions detrimental to another church are expected to accomplish their goals with 0 body count. If you want to go smite evil for Karameikos, join the Order of the Griffin. They are the only religious order that everyone respects. They don't care what religion the people they are saving is, it's just that they needed saving. Most missions will involve building new temples, finding lost artifacts, or destroying temples to entropic immortals. That last one will get the 2 largest churches to work together. The Cult of Halav hates gnolls as much as everybody else, but they aren't numerous, and only a few of their numbers know how to wield a sword. For clerics reaching name level, they can gain sponsorship from either of the larger churches. Again, the cult has little in the way of resources. If you can coincide the cleric getting his temple with the fighter becoming a landed knight, then you have a good start in dealing with domain building. Strangely, the biggest difference between the churches is divination wizards, as neither likes arcane magic, but Traladara gives diviners a hard pass. The Traladaran people love their fortune tellers. That's an inside look on the most prominent religions of Karameikos. The largest is distrustful, but largely hands-off. The runner-up is more militant, but possesses a degree of corruption. The cult wants to be taken seriously, but can't even get the guy they idolize to give them the time of day. Next week, we're heading back to Blackmoor to look at King Uthor's spymaster, the man known as the Fetch. Until then, wear comfortable shoes before heading to church. You're going to be standing for a while. And if any of my followers are Orthodox, you might want to explain that joke because I had to have it told to me.